Hello. It's Wednesday, right?
Yes, it is.
Holy Wednesday, Batman. We're back here in our journey. Every Wednesday we come at you talking about our feelings and our emotions and the things we have going on in our lives. It's about emotions. Who knows? With me, as always, my wonderfully sensacious, sophisticated, and clinically sassy Miss Mary.
Clinically sassy.
Van Alstyne.
Hello.
We're back here every week. Rob Morales, RCO Network. We're back here every week on a Wednesday talking about feelings and emotions, the things we go through as humans on this plane we call the physical plane, and trying to understand what I believe is the connection to our spiritual body is really understand these emotions. And that's what Miss Mary Van Alstyne's here for.
Yes.
I almost slipped again and called her Heather.
Oh, no, because you keep saying it. I told you to
I don't
stop.
know. Man, it's the thing, whatever.
You've ingrained it now into your brain.
It's your avatar.
Pet name. My
All right.
my pet name.
Pet name. I got it. Do you have a pet name for me?
Snow. Not yet.
Snow?
No.
Oh, okay.
Snow. I don't know.
Rob Ross again, RCO Network. If you're on the Facebook or on the YouTubes or something, hit the like button and share, comment. We talk about feelings on this show, so if there's something that you resonate with or that resonates with you or just calls to light on something, go ahead and make those comments on there, and we'll address them as we go along or address them next week. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe and watch us all the time.
All the time.
Maybe make a fool of ourselves.
Yeah.
You have a really nice smile today.
Oh, thank you.
I can't believe how white your teeth are.
Oh, I whiten them with white strips.
Oh, is that
yeah,
why?
they're a miracle.
So 2 days ago I was looking at my teeth and I'm like, kind of yellow. I got to stop drinking coffee.
I drink coffee through a straw so that I can keep them white.
Is that the trick?
It is a trick. There's a lot of tricks there. So, yeah.
But we're not here to talk about coffee or teeth, but even though they're, actually really nice, we're here to talk about these emotions and stuff too. We've been feeling a little bit anxious these last couple of days, right, Miss Mary?
Yeah, I would say so.
A little stressful.
You calling me out?
I am calling you out.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit, yes. Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I will tell you. Yeah, thanks. I will tell you that this last weekend, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting over a sinus thing. It's a little bit of throat clearing happening. And so this last week, what I have found myself in the middle of is a shitstorm of not accepting and not being loving to myself the way that I normally would. And what that looks like is I have been finding myself correcting myself for feeling bad. I've had some days of maybe a sadness or overwhelm or, just thoughts that were not positive, feelings that were not positive arising within me. And then finding myself going, God, Mary, what's your problem? You know better than this. Why are you feeling this way? Fix yourself, right? Yeah. And I did a Facebook post about that. And, it's gotten a lot better since I kind of went for a hike, sat with myself, allowed some things to come through. And I was able to really step back and look at what I was doing to myself, which was using myself as that big punching bag, right?
Yeah, and I don't think you're uncommon or different than anybody else out there in this world.
Not at all.
I go through those emotions and feelings too, and you come across that in whatever capacity of life you're doing. There are insecurities that just thrive within us. And, the thing that we want to highlight in the show and with everybody here is that we're trying to control those things. We're trying to understand them to the point where we can control them. I don't know if they're controllable.
I don't even know that it's a thing. It's about control or,
Maybe
however, I think that we can navigate them a little bit more gently with ourselves, which can make it easier in the long run.
Almost like driving a car, right? Like you don't really have control of the environment around you.
Right.
You have immediate control of the steering wheel, but sometimes the engine just kind of does its own thing, or it needs.
Or a car comes over into your lane, and and what do? You navigate that situation, right? And you get through it. So.
And very much you can be on cruise control. Everything's going good, and all of a sudden, something environmental hits and it just throws you completely off.
Yeah.
And I think the learning lesson in all this stuff is that what we're sharing and what we're trying to do is connect with all of you and know that as we go through these processes that we're not alone. And you're not alone, Mary. I'm right there with you.
Thank you. I know that.
Let's go have a drink. Let's call the end of the show.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is that the vulnerability that it takes to come on and do this podcast, I've realized, because a lot, there have been some days where I come, I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday. Oh, I've got these things to do. And I haven't been this bright, shiny person. And my tendency in the past was to want to hide out from anybody that would potentially go, oh, look, see, she's not that happy and she's not that positive all the time. And so it's been a really, it's been a great thing for me to be able to go, crap, it's Wednesday, we're doing this show, I'm kind of in my shit, and we're going to do it anyway, and it's going to, that vulnerability allows other people to know that, like, that's just normal. It's just normal, Yeah,
I go through those feelings and emotions too, and it affects just about every other capacity, and I realize that whatever my temperament is, wherever I'm at, it's going to affect the people around me, and I'm very conscientious of that, but I have my days too. There's just no, like I said, you're in a car and you can't control for everything. You can only control what's in your hands.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's in your hands isn't necessarily within your control either.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've gotten through this last week and some things in sitting in silence, and that's what I tend to do is I don't drown it out anymore like I used to. I don't numb it out. I don't ignore it. I don't busy myself. I go and I sit and I go inward. And so one of the big ahas that I had was this idea of self-love that I'm always talking about, and self-acceptance. And then what hit me over the head like a ton of bricks, no, I think I say that a lot, but I get hit by a lot of tons of bricks, but was that loving yourself and allowing yourself to feel these emotions that are icky or you don't necessarily like them is a big part of fully accepting yourself, because these things are going to happen. The happiest person in the world who has everything is always going to have those moments where they feel like crap. Yeah. And the difference is, like, do you go and beat yourself up about it, or do you allow these things to happen and come through? And then to me it was like, wow, that's a huge part of self-love that I didn't really think about. It was like, okay, I feel like crap, I'm going to take a bath. That's self-love. Or I feel bad, I'm going to go do this and have some ice cream to make me feel better, because that's self-love. And when I really took a look at it, it's not about what I'm doing to make myself feel better that is self-love, although it can be. It's how I'm treating myself when I'm feeling in those moments of not so shiny, not so pretty, not so happy, So that was my big aha at the top of a mountain, actually, when I was doing a hike this week.
What's your favorite flavor? Ice cream?
Ice cream? I'm not really an ice cream fan.
I was just wondering.
It seems like a standard thing that we always hear, like, let me have my Ben and Jerry's or whatever.
If you did have a favorite ice cream, what would it be? I'm trying to plan for the next. Oh, really?
Strawberry.
That is mine too.
Or, but my go-to would always be like something salty, like chips.
Chips. Salt and vinegar.
Oh my God, those are my favorite.
I like I'm between those, and that's a little bit too much sometimes. And then my other one is the jalapeno chips, those kettle.
Oh yeah, chips. I'm really bad, and I love the Cheetos. You know what? My favorite thing is those big jars from Costco with the cheese balls. Yeah, those. My mouth is starting to water, so we need to change the topic. But
shit! But yeah, I think you identified something that I resonate with, and part of understanding my emotions and where I've been. I used to find myself hiding a lot. And I don't know if that's the mark of an introvert, but I do know where that came from. My dad was highly emotional person, but didn't know how to articulate those. And it really just came out in anger. And when he got mad and frustrated, he just stormed off and just kind of hid he had like a little shop in the back. So he hid in his little shop, and he would tinker with whatever he's tinkering with, because he had a million friggin' tools. And he would just lay low and hang out and probably not think about those things and resonate with the feelings, because even towards the end when he was dying, he did not. He was still like a 15-year-old kid yelling at my mom and stuff. Not to disparage him. I mean, he was a great person. He's just like every one of us that doesn't really know how to navigate these emotions. And bringing it back to the original thing, I used to find myself hiding out too. And almost kind of wait for somebody to kind of knock on the door or come find you, because them finding you meant that they were pursuing you or looking for you. And then when they found you, it's like, oh, they really did care about me. And then there were so many times as a child that my parents never really came and found me. And I wandered further and further away. And then into my adulthood, really didn't have those conversations with them about emotions and stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like within the last 10 years that I was actually able to articulate a lot of that stuff. But do you think that's a childhood trait that you're kind of navigating through? Like, hey, I'm just going to bunker down and hide and not, and think about these things, but just wait for somebody to come find me. Is that something similar to that?
I think that to me seems like maybe an example of looking for someone to rescue, you know, or looking for love outside yourself because you're not able to maybe as a young kid provide that kind of comfort for yourself. And I think that's the beauty of us getting older and going on these journeys that we are going on to learn to be able to be that source of love for yourself and to comfort yourself in all the different ways that we talk about. We do talk about self-love a lot, and we talk about it in so many different aspects. And this one, it's just being able to soothe that. It's like your inner parent, you know, being able to soothe that little child that maybe is not coping with something as well. And what I've found is that myself, I was not a very nice inner parent to myself, right? My self-talk, when I stopped to listen to it, all about mindfulness, which is what we practice all the time, is, you know, when I stopped and I just paid attention to what these words were, it was like, you know better than this. You know, why are you feeling this way? Fix yourself. You have no reason to feel like this. It's almost like a parent going, I'll give you something to cry about. Like, why would I do that to myself? So the beauty is being able to catch that inner dialogue that I was having and go, oh my gosh, I would not do this to a little child. What would I do? I would comfort that child, you know, and put my arms around that child.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's the trick. How do you comfort yourself? How do you like wrap your arms around yourself without feeling awkward?
Well,
you know?
like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, but emotionally.
Emotionally, here's what I do. If you're asking, is I will just repeat phrases to myself. You are perfectly safe. You're perfectly safe to feel this. Yeah. You are all right. You are okay. You're going to be okay. You're allowed to feel this. This is normal. You know, so I'm literally just repeating these things to myself.
Constant affirmation.
Yeah, and then, you know, you can literally visualize an energetic hug if you want to get a little woo-woo on me, but I kind of saw myself in, you know, I took the sunlight and I kind of did this visualization where it was like a warm blanket surrounding me and just kind of comforting me in that moment where I was just basically reassuring myself that this is okay. You are okay. You are so safe right now. You know, you can feel this. Let it go. You know, let it go through. And so it was like it was like a tug of war between that and, well, you've done all this growth. You know better. No, and then just kind of just, it's like you have to make that other voice a little more quiet over time. Yeah,
because I think the problem that a lot of people face, and again, I don't know if anybody resonates with this, is that they apply that to other people doing that for them. You know,
exactly.
Especially like in intimate relationships, when we get involved with somebody, everything's like, you know, especially dating somebody new for the first time. Mm-hmm. You know, they get so wrapped up in the emotions, that person's taking them away from all those negative thoughts and feelings. Mm-hmm. They're making them feel special. They're on this pedestal for, you know, temporary, and then things start settling down. And it's like, well, you're not doing that for me anymore.
Yeah.
And I never really learned how to self-soothe in the first place. So now I'm going to blame you for not making me feel better.
Exactly. And we talked about that during the codependent episode. Yeah. It's like I'm seeking something outside of myself for validation of me being okay or for someone to rescue me from something. And there is so much power in learning to love yourself fully and to self-soothe. Therefore, you know, we're raising our emotional IQ. Like we talked about, our emotional intelligence begins to raise. All of this intertwines so beautifully. Like all the different shows that we've had, to me, are starting to come together piece by piece, where it's like this beautiful puzzle being put together of this like small little gentle step-by-step path to almost like being liberated from the control of our emotions and our thoughts and codependency and all those kinds of things. So
and I think the challenge for most people, and the challenge for you out there, is to really not stop blaming the other person in your life or people. You know, there's no point to it. You're just wasting time. Yeah. It's really identifying those broken, and maybe not even broken, but disjunct puzzle pieces within yourself, and to figure out, well, exactly where they fit. And I believe the people in your life have a place or a puzzle piece in there, but they shouldn't be the whole thing. Yeah. You know, that's the journey that we're all on, and that's the purpose of the show, is that we all connect and we all show you that you're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the more whole you become, the healthier your relationships with other people can be, and the more enriched your life will be from those people, because they're no longer, you're no longer depending on them for something. Yeah. You know, they're just complementing your life, especially in your romantic relationship. Imagine that, right? The beautiful relationships that could be created if we all stop being having this victim mentality, meaning everything is because of you pointing the finger outward. So,
yeah. And it takes a strong will, and I think a strong sense of emotion to not take that blame when you first meet with somebody, because they come into a relationship with all these things, these burdens that they try to apply to you. They don't do it in the first, but they definitely apply it to you when you're taking it away from them. You're distracting them from having to deal with those negative feelings and negative emotions, but then they have a tendency to blame you when you stop, or not able to do that as well as you did when you first started dating. And it's natural. Things calm down. I think anybody that's been in a relationship more than 3 months knows that shit starts calming down after a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why do you think people suppress these feelings? Why do you think people hold back and just shove them under the rug so much? Why is that? Just because it's easier for them?
You mean hold back the feelings of maybe I'm not feeling so good right now?
Well, like even this discussion that we're having. Mm-hmm. We're having a discussion just about feelings. I call it our pseudo counseling session.
Yeah, our weekly counseling.
It's without the degrees. We kind of like take a step away from our daily lives, from what I do, from what Mary does, and just talk about feelings and like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm feeling. How are you feeling? And it's like a check-in, and it's the ability to kind of articulate these things and know that, hey, we're on this path on similar, streets, I guess, on this path, but similar ways and we're feeling, and then we're able to identify and cross paths and say, is this how you felt? And I think, again, we were talking before the show, that intimate partner, that person in your life kind of plays that confirming role on your feelings. So if they're a depressed person, you're going to end up being somewhat depressed because they're confirming all those negative thoughts and feelings that you're having.
Or that was already within you, because everybody that you encounter is just a mirror for what's already in you.
Yeah. Look at your 5, your top 5.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you look at them, they really are a mirror for what's in you. If you looking at someone in your life and they're always angry, like that's a reflection of something that's in you. That's always
Am I in
angry.
your top 5?
Oh, absolutely.
So so when you look at me, you look at yourself. But
yeah, you look just like me.
You definitely look cuter than me. I will give you that.
I did. So you asked me a question. I totally lost it. I apologize. You said you wondered if I thought why it was that we suppress these.
Why do we suppress these feelings?
So I think it's a combination of things, really. We're taught as a society that it's, there was the generation, the quiet generation, right? You don't talk about feelings. It's not okay to not be okay. We just have these expectations of ourselves that are unreal, I think more and more nowadays, the collective is starting to be more okay with being able to express emotions, being able to show our true colors and things like that. But it's happening slowly. But I think it's a combination of just feeling like we should have it all put together, this need to look good, this, societal expectation that, everybody should be okay all the time. You know what I mean? I think it's a combination of all that.
Yeah, because I think the culture...
Vulnerability, the fear of vulnerability is a big part of that.
Well, and I think in our age group, and probably around where we're at, in our 20s.
20 and like 15
whatever.
20. Yeah.
So around our age group, I mean, growing up, we were told to just sit down, shut up, turn around, and pay attention, which is just compliance. We're just taught, in the generation that I'm in, we're just taught compliance, right? Just do what you're told, sit in your cubicle, do your work, get your paycheck, go home, come back and do it again. Mm-hmm. That's been pretty much our whole work lives. And I think we're at an inflection point in our culture where we are more open to that. Look at our labor market right now. Nobody's going to work because they don't feel the passion behind what they do. They don't feel a part of something greater or more significant. And in our culture is like, just go to work. What the hell? You're sitting at home contemplating emotions, go to work. Make a paycheck. Why are you sitting around doing nothing? Just a completely different cultural mindset. But I still don't think we're being educated in the right way. We're told, especially the newer generations or the people growing up in this generation are just told to be more open. but they still don't understand the feelings or emotions.
Yeah.
They express themselves, like almost like a kid, like rah, 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 stomping their feet, but they still don't recognize why they're stomping their feet.
I've actually seen a lot more with my kids in school. They're doing a lot more little things that are subtle that are teaching the kids about emotional intelligence. And I was really surprised, they had something on their board about this week's topic is I'm responsible for the way I feel or something like that. And so it was beautiful. And then I've actually got some kids books for my kids that talk about, being self-responsible for their own feelings. So I think it's definitely starting to emerge, which is great. It's like our generation is opening something up. And I think it's beautiful that it's the vulnerability and being willing to express how you're feeling and be the real you is vulnerability being seen as something beautiful versus weak is such a great thing. It's I mean, that was one of the biggest things in my life. When I finally stopped being this stonewall, everything is perfect, everything is great. You know how painful that was, walking around for so many years like that? Oh my gosh. I don't know how I did it. Yeah. I don't know how I did it. And sometimes now, if I'm having a feeling and I need to cry in the middle of an inappropriate moment and I start crying, and I still feel myself kind of trying to pull back, I'm almost not able to anymore. And so I made a comment to a friend recently. I said, this vulnerability thing, sometimes I wish I could turn it off, because sometimes it's you still get self-conscious about it, even when you've done the work to be in that place more. So it's like everything else, continuous, being willing to be uncomfortable.
Do you think there's a greater pressure on you because you're female? Because our culture basically, puts females on a pedestal. They're there to be dainty, cute, whatever, in every capacity. Like every commercial, you have this perfect model. I saw this advertisement for plus size models, and I'm like, that's just average. How are they plus size?
Yeah.
And we have this culture where there's that higher pressure, higher degree to be quote unquote perfect, and everybody identifies it differently, of course, but I think that greater pressure is on women. Do you think?
It could be. I mean, there is a lot of pressure on there, but it's like more and more I'm seeing models that are not stick figures and things like that. So just like everything else, it's slowly emerging to. There's a shift happening for sure, but.
Oh, that's good. So we talk. So it goes back to again the self-love concept. Is there certain things or certain ways, and you identified at least one, those affirmations, like, "Hey, I am good enough. I am okay. I am whatever it is that you feel safe." Is there other ways that people can practice quote unquote self-love?
I think just for me, as far as being in those emotions, just practice allowing it to work its way through, For me, it was I needed to go home and do a really good ugly cry, right? Yeah. And sometimes I've had those moments where it's like, okay, I need to shove my face into a pillow and scream. Yeah. So it's like just kind of go with the feeling of what is it that's pay attention to what it is that's trying to get out and move through, right? And also maybe asking what is it that I am supposed to learn from this? Because you'd be surprised when you ask those questions, what kinds of things just download into your head, right? Or you'll just have an epiphany or an aha, or bricks will drop from the sky like they do for me.
And I think for men it's a little bit different too, because I don't feel compelled to go home and cry. I do have emotions, and there are times where just things are overwhelming, and that I guess that would satisfy the situation. But for me, it's completely different. And again, I don't know if it's gender, if it's just me, but I find task-related stuff, so I'll go and distract myself with a puzzle. I'll go distract myself with a poem. Mm-hmm. I mean, I write and whatever.
Which I'm going to read a poem soon, dang it.
I finished that one that I showed you.
Okay, that was long. Well, we'll give it a shot.
We can...
For me to read.
Do you have time?
No,
not today. But I think for men it's different too. So, but knowing that, so let's just blanket statement. For women it's just a cry, and that's probably just somebody offering. So if you're a man or another female, I think females understand this more. If you're a man, that not to take that cry is as something against you. Sometimes I think men, take on that obligation. It's like, hey, I need to make sure I need to fix her. I need to do something, which goes back to that kind of task-oriented things. But that's not the case. Sometimes it's just presence. And it's hard for people in general just to sit and listen. But I think there's a degree level, or at least a level up more for men that it's hard for them to listen. But for women too, they also have to recognize that men have a hard time listening, and so there's different aspects. I think there's things to recognize when it comes to these pressures and strains, especially if you're there for your partner or your friend, that they don't always need advice, that they don't need to resolve all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think for men too, that there's a tendency to want to fix things and create things, or, hey, you have a problem. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I don't know why you're crying all the time.
Yeah.
And I remembered being that way myself and not understanding that part.
I mean, that's a natural male tendency. Yeah, masculine tendency.
Yeah. So we do have a book, though. We do have a book that you wanted to reference regarding some of these things. So if you want information or more information regarding how to control these things and love yourself a little bit more, I'm going to go and put that up right now.
Yay.
Do you want to talk about this book a little bit, Miss Mary?
I will just say that, I read this book probably about a year ago. It's a really short read, really good, but he walks you through some really practical little exercises. He kind of goes into his story about what happened to him and got to a point of being in a suicidal place from being at a very high place, and realizing that he just really it all boiled down to self-love, which is what I'm always talking about. Yeah. And because I really believe that if we all have love for ourselves and we all stop being victim, we can have world peace, right? So he goes through some really practical little things that you can do, daily practices, and how they work and why they work, and ways that you can start your journey to self-love. So
yeah, and if there was a learning lesson that I can share with the men in the audience, and the thing I had to teach myself is to really I know I need to be working on something. When I feel stressed or strained, I find myself cleaning. I find myself putting things back together. Like this weekend, I fixed my office. It was getting a mess in here, and there was a certain amount of beginning and end to resolve in that. But it also allowed me to sit and kind of think about the emotions and the things that I was experiencing, and felt good about, hey, I finished this task. But whatever issue you have, do not let it linger or shove it under the rug. And I think that's what we were trying to articulate with today's show, is that the natural tendency, the easy thing is just to shove it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist, but it doesn't go away. Yeah. As much as you want to deny the feelings, it doesn't go away. And so part of having a good partner, or part of being a man, honestly, is to take on that leadership role. If you're the dominant in a relationship, it's to take on that leadership role and not necessarily control the situation, but definitely lead. So it's a difference between the asshole boss and the leader in the group. Mm-hmm. Leaders have people follow them, or people that naturally follow them. Where people that are assholes, they're trying to gain control. Mm-hmm. And it's not progressive that way, at least in my experience. And people, I think, naturally want to be led. They want to be told what to do. It's kind of a weird, kind of a social aspect that we are as humans, but for the most part, people want to follow a leader. And if you're the dominant in your relationship, you have to be the leader. If you're not, then that submissive or whoever is in your life is going to feel a little bit lost and challenge your leadership. And then that's where problems start coming back in. Right. Anything else, Miss Mary? We're at the end of the show today.
No, I just say
that
I feel great, and I just want to say to everyone that you are worthy, and you are lovable, and you deserve it, and you are okay, and we are here, and we're glad you're with us.
Always. So Rob Morales, RCO Network, here with Miss Mary Van Alstyne from a Landmark Title, or whatever. We're going to catch you guys here next week. If you liked what you're seeing, go ahead and hit the like button and leave a comment, and we'll get back to it next week. See you guys.
I tried your little...